Welcome back to part 3 of our interview with Derek Lidow, where he tells us the difference between high-risk and bedrock entrepreneurs, in addition to why entrepreneurship will always remain the same despite the shift in business types. Don't go anywhere. Part 3 is just around the corner.
Welcome to this edition of Peak Performance Podcast
with your host, Thor Conklin.
Thor will be sharing the necessary tools, strategies, and psychology you'll need to become a peak performer in any area of your life or business.
Thor Conklin here. We give you the tricks, the tips, the tools, the strategy, the technology, and the psychology peak performers use in order to get more done and execute at the highest level. If you know what to do but struggle with getting it all done, or simply want to raise your game to the next level, this podcast is for you. Sit back and enjoy. You know, yesterday I had lunch with a major CEO in the Southeast, runs a huge international organization. And he was talking about, some of the, I'm in an organization called Entrepreneurs Organization, EO, 12,000 entrepreneurs worldwide. And he said, out of all the entrepreneurs here in Atlanta that you're associated with and know, besides technology, right? Like, who's out there? Who's like really killing it? And we were talking about how business is changing. The internet obviously is assuming more sales. Retail is having issues. It's going to continue to probably have more issues as the internet even takes up more of those sales. Besides technology and what we determined was service industry, someone's got to cut the grass, someone's got to clean the car, etc. What do you see a shift here? Do you see an industry going away? Obviously, with robotics, AI coming on board, self-driving cars, we're coming into a shift where entrepreneurship is going to look different in the future. Or at least the businesses are going to look different. What do you think's in store for us?
Well, the businesses are going to look different, but I don't think entrepreneurship is going to look different. And we have these waves of technology that come, and so some great research has shown that these waves tend to last about 50 years. And so this wave that we're in right now was really launched about 1970 with the invention of the microprocessor. And the microprocessor, enabled personal computers, but now smartphones and the internet and wireless communication and all these things that we've come to rely upon. And a lot of businesses and businesses to serve wireless businesses or serve, these app companies or the like. So there are many layers of businesses that get created when these waves come through. And of course, there's the whole finance industry that shifts into high gear about investing in these companies that are building out this capability. But these waves have been happening for a long time. There was the railroad craze, there was steel, there was automobiles. I remember there was one before the semiconductor industry on the savings and loan business that went through a startup craze as well. And so some of it was useful and truly made people happy. But ultimately, when you get in the later phases of these technological waves, people are really straining to justify why they should be in business. And so you get people that are more willing to cut corners. And so you see people, startups that have these scandals about cheating, about treating their people very poorly, about all the corners they have to cut to ultimately justify or their existence, and so this amoral behavior starts kicking in there. 35 years or so after the wave starts, and we're unfortunately seeing quite a bit of that in the startup community that's losing sight of the fact that ultimately it's about making people happy and not abusing people and creating these startups.
Yeah, in the business of raising money.
The business of raising money, because ultimately you have to shoot for the moon or else it's not worth it.
Yeah, and they're being rewarded in many cases. I mean, look, it's good. It's a good job to get if you can get it. Let's borrow somebody else's money. Let's create an idea. At least, it seems like they're creating revenue this time as opposed to in 2000, it was just eyeballs and selling at ridiculous multiples. So, I mean, if you can do it, I guess it's good work. I just don't know. Like you say, everyone seems to be caught up in this craze of this is the only way to do it and this is how to do it. I can't tell you the number of entrepreneurs that have said, hey, I know you guys are profitability consultants. We're not interested in profitability. What we're interested in is growing the top line because our investors aren't interested in the profitability. They're interested in the multiple of what they can sell this thing for.
Yeah, that's an unfortunate situation. The venture capital community, which fosters this thinking, is an essential part of our economy, and we're the world leader in areas like biotech or semiconductors and social media, and in businesses where economies of scale and network effects are important, you definitely do want to shoot for the moon and use other people's money. So that is the right business model, and I call that high risk. Those are the high risk entrepreneurs. But you know what? Over the last 20 years, the venture capital community has invested in 1,400 new companies a year on average, and with quite little, just small little fluctuations in that number. Year in, year out. It's not like it's a growing number. 20 years ago, they invested in 1,400 new companies a year. They're still investing in 1,400 new companies a year. So 1,400 new companies are going to be successful in getting venture capital funding, and no more. And yet, we have all of these incubators and accelerators and angel investors that are trying to, inspire these teams to go for it. And we're inspiring about 70,000 teams a year to go for 1,400 slots. And we're leading a lot of lambs to slaughter. Whereas if many of these business models were just tweaked so that they did care about profitability and reinvesting the profits, they could achieve a great deal on their own in the classic way of creating companies, which has never changed, which I call Bedrock, and which to this day, if you look at the Inc. 5000, 90% of the companies on Inc. 5000 are built using Bedrock principles and not high-risk principles.
Yeah, no question. It's fascinating how things have evolved, and you bring up a point you talked about earlier, and I'm trying to get my head around it, and I can't seem to figure this out. So I'm going to ask you because you're a PhD, so you can answer this for me, I hope. What is the next thing other than technology? I mean, if we're coming to the end of a phase in technology, I get the railroads, I get the whole, I can see the past is very clear, obviously, because it's occurred. Is the future not in semiconductors and technology? Is there something else out there?
Well, technology is basically a synonym to innovation.
Well, yeah. I guess the printing press was technology at some point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the copper axe was technology,
Yeah. All right.
1000 BC. So, um, and we have wonderful uh, investigations. They're not yet mature enough to be true technologies in the sense that we know how they're going to innovate. But what's happening in terms of our ability to cure diseases using new techniques of genetic engineering and like hold enormous promise.
Yeah, we're just at the tip of that wave to come. It's amazing,
Right.
just in the last 12 months, the innovations that have been done there.
Yeah, and now we're actually getting breakthroughs that we can cure some of these things that were considered uncurable just a couple of years ago. And so we're just at the starting point of new waves to come, and that's certainly one of them.
All right, now I got to ask you this, because now we're going down a completely different rabbit hole. Technology in the healthcare space is going to dramatically change things. I'm hoping to live to 150 with incredible vitality with all the changes that are coming. Hopefully it comes soon enough. What's everyone going to do? We're going to have a major issue with employment and redeployment of how we educate folks, the type of jobs that are going to be out there. You're in the university environment. You're with Princeton. What do you see coming down the line? What's going to happen as we start living to 100? Because certainly people are not taking care of their finances to take care of themselves to 100.
It's true. And maybe the U.S. isn't going to be a leader in those new types of social structures that will need to come, to be part of our daily lives, because ultimately a lot of things will be done for us. Now, in many parts of the world, the work week is shorter. In some parts of the world, the work week is much longer. But those countries like Germany and France, mostly in Europe, where the work week has been shrinking for 10 years or more, are experimenting, sometimes successfully, sometimes not so successfully, with different ways to support a society that works fewer hours. And, I think they're often associated with words that have these emotional ties, oh, well, that's socialist, or that's not true free enterprise. But ultimately, if we can create the value that we need to sustain ourselves and to continue to entertain ourselves with just a fraction of the population, then maybe what I forget who proposed. Ultimately, a variation on an idea that came out of Finland, which is the guaranteed minimum wage for everybody. As an example that everybody gets an allowance. Those may turn into the social forms that we adopt in the not too distant future.
Interesting. It's going to be an interesting couple of decades. I'm just turning 54. I hope I'm around here for another 54 years to see what comes. We're at the end of our time slot here, unfortunately, and I would love to have you back on in literally about 2 weeks, because I want to dive into what are you seeing within the university campus? What's happening to our young folks? What's entrepreneurship look like there? Some of your research into the history of entrepreneurship, the research that you're finding of how businesses are changing. I know your sons are entrepreneurs. I've got a lot more questions, and we just ran out of time.
Well, I would look forward to continuing this conversation in a few weeks' time because I think that these are important topics that people, if they understand, it can change their outlook and maybe even change their lives.
Well, thank you so much for being on. Now, before you get to listen to the next episode in a couple weeks, make sure if you're listening to this podcast, get out there and make sure that you order your Building on Bedrock. I'm sure they can find that Amazon and all the outlets. Is that correct?
The book is everywhere. It's being well received, and it's an easy read. I hope a lot of people read Building on Bedrock.
Well, you got some great reviews. Tell the audience how they can get in touch with you if they have any questions.
Well, my website, dereklidow.com, DEREKLIDOW.com, is a great place to start. You can access me directly there. And I'm very responsive. So my mission is to help people be more successful, and I have a lot of people reaching out through the website or LinkedIn or Facebook or the like, and I'm happy to get to know people and help as best I can.
Well, Derek, I really appreciate getting a chance to know you. And one of the favorite things whenever I'm talking to you, I love not being the smartest person in the room. I strive for that every single day.
That's because I'm just a little bit older. So
I think you're underselling yourself a little bit, but man, I really appreciate your insights here. I didn't mean to dive deep into that first book, but I couldn't stop there. I mean, those were great insights, and I look forward to having you back on in a few weeks. I'll send out that invitation when we're done here today.
Thor, it's been a real pleasure, and I look forward to a continuing set of conversations.
I love it. Thank you very much.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening today. I really do appreciate your time, and I hope you found today's show valuable. If you would like to receive these shows automatically to your phone or to your computer, simply go to iTunes and subscribe. After listening to several of the shows, if you're so inclined, please leave us a 5-star rating, as this helps us reach additional people and spread the message. If you're truly committed to taking your life to the next level and doing whatever it takes to become a peak performer, but something's holding you back, something is blocking your way, and you just can't seem to figure out what it is, send me an email to info@thorconklin.com, and I'd be more than happy to get on the phone with you. We'll schedule a 15-minute discovery call. No obligation, no cost. I absolutely love to hear from the listeners, and if there's something I can do to help, I'd be more than happy to do that. Also, if you found something of great interest in today's show and you want to share that with your friends and family, simply go to my Facebook page, Thor Conklin, click on the episode, hit the share button, and share it on your page. You can follow me at Twitter at Thor Conklin. The website is thorconklin.com. We're constantly adding new free resources, discussing additional tricks, tips, tools, and strategies on how to be a peak performer. Remember, I try to keep these episodes short so you can listen to them during dot time, doing other things, commuting, driving, walking, working out. Decide to be a peak performer in all that you do. And until tomorrow, have an absolutely amazing day.